This is the 3 Delta 2 Yankee 3D2Y 2024 Rotuma presentation. And I'm going to start it off with the agenda if I can switch over. So if you take a look at the screens, you'll see we're going to be talking a little bit about the history and overview of Rotuma, our team, where we stayed, which is Lillian's homestay, our team objectives, logistics station operations, and the challenges and obstacles that we experienced, our accomplishments. We're going to show you some island photography. So if you're sitting in the back, you may want to move up a little closer so you can see some of the detail in a lot of the photographs that are in here. And lessons learned, we'll talk about our sponsors and our future plans. So just to give you a little bit about the history of the island, Rotuma Island was sighted in 1791 when they were searching for the HMS Bounty mutineers. Okay, it was discovered. And in the 19th century, the Catholic and the Wesleyan ministries, they actually arrived. The missionaries actually arrived on the island. In 1878, there was some Catholicism rivalry. The Wesleyans defeated the Catholics in war, and then post-war unrest continued. So the Rotuma chiefs petitioned England in 1881, and England put Rotuma under the governments of Fiji. And that created 7 districts on the island, which are still in existence today. So the chiefs formed a Rotuman council, which is basically a balance between them and the actual population. The population has been about 1,500 people and decreasing, and on the island, most folks know each other, okay? So there's a single government area with a post office and a police station. So if you see the top right photo is the, sorry about that. Top right photo on the slide is actually our family's host that was there, and then bottom right is the part of the government center, which is the police station. There's no commercialization on the island at all, so there's no grocery stores, there's no restaurants, there's no hardware stores, there's a gas station, but that's a different story. So you're not going to find anything, and that's the way the Rotumans and the Rotuman Council prefer to keep it. So you're not going to go there and see any kind of a commercialized Hyatt Regency or a Marriott hotel or anything like that. The individual shops are in the homes where you can purchase some supplies, but not everything. And interesting to note that, if you have a vehicle on the island, you can only fix it so far. And after that, the vehicle's got to get shipped out to Fiji to be repaired. To get into the island, you've either got to stay at a homestay or be invited to a private residence. What we saw on the island was box trucks, pickup trucks, motorbikes, or a lot of folks who were walking. A little bit about a ham radio history on Rotuma Island. In 1988, there was a 3 Delta 2 X-ray. It was the first amateur radio DXpedition to Rotuma. And that was located in Fapufa. And Fapufa is one of the districts on the island, and you can see the listing of the operators. The other DXpeditions occurred from 2011 through ours last year in 2024. So this was our on-island team. There were 6 of us. Greg Marco, W6IZT, he was the team leader. I'm in the middle. Nathan, N4HW, I got that wrong, N4NHW. He was our team medic. Connor Dickey, KD9LSV. Jamie Williams, who's not here with us today, he came in from the United Kingdom. And Lucas Bartkus came in from Lithuania. So we had 6 folks on the island putting everything together. Our off-island team was orchestrated by Greg, and it was actually overseen by Case up in your top left-hand corner, W0 Alpha Alpha Echo. He was coordinating the efforts of our off-island operators. And down on the bottom right, I'll draw your attention to Matus, OM8 Alpha Tango Echo. He's going to be on our Saba Island DXpedition on October. So more of the off-island team, a very significant mixture of different cultures, people from different countries that all worked in through the island on the ribs, the radio in a box. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, Emilia Yankee Oscar 8 Yankee Lima. She is going to be joining us in October, as well as George Yankee Oscar 9 Lima India Golf. So where we stayed was Lillian's homestay, and you can see that photograph of our actual base operations in the top left-hand side. Our radio operation, it's not shown, our radio operation was further down toward that blue area, kind of hard to see in that photograph. And then we put in a couple of pictures, top right and bottom left, of where we had our meals. The bottom right-hand photograph shows the homestay, and the homestay was sort of our general meeting area that linked up to all of our individual rooms. And now I'll turn it over to Greg Marco.
I can't help but to digress a bit. Those of you who have been coming to Dayton for many years will understand this. But seeing the sewage event that we had in the lobby today kind of brings memories back of the Hera Arena. If you'd been there, you totally understand. So this DXpedition, our core objective was to get as many young people involved in DXpeditioning as possible. And the Young Island team was made up largely of first-time DXpeditioners. And the off-island team, we bring on board so they can get a virtual experience of DXpeditioning. And we use the off-island team as sort of our recruiting group for the next DXpedition. So coming up to Saba, as Dean alluded to, we have 4 operators that will be on island with us. And again, we'll have another group of approximately 30 to 40 off-island operators that will form our off-island team. I'm already putting some thought into what we're going to do in 2026, but again, the plan would be to leverage the Saba off-island team on that DXpedition in this upcoming year. Rotuma was number 65 in Club Log. It was a bit of a challenge that we didn't anticipate, but we managed to overcome and move on. How do I advance this, Dean? Perfect. So when we were planning this trip back in the summer, one of the things we were working up through was what was going to be the magnitude, the size, the weight of our shipment. And we scoped it out. We came up with a size and a volume and got quotes. And we weren't totally comfortable with the quotes that we were getting. And as it turned out, the quote was 50% low. Well, we budgeted a number, but we didn't budget for doubling our air shipment expenses. So we had to cut it down significantly by half. Our equipment shipped from Atlanta by truck to Los Angeles by air to Sydney to Auckland to Nandi, Fiji. And we had trackers in the package. We were able to follow it all along. We planned for some delays in the shipping, and it turned out that it was good that we did because our gear arrived in Rotuma 1 week before the team arrived. Had we not built that buffer into our shipping schedule, we would have been there without equipment. So what this ended up forcing us to do was to carry a lot of stuff as checked baggage. On the international flights, we had a 30 kilogram limit per bag. On the Rotuma flight, it was a 15 kilogram per bag. Well, you think the math is really simple. You just take one bag, split it in half, and put it in a smaller bag, and away you go. Well, it doesn't really kind of work out that way because when you break it down to the weight of every individual item, you end up shuffling a lot of things around. We had a day layover in Nandi, and that entire day from sun up to sunset was spent repackaging gear, but we managed to get everything repackaged and it's on its way to Rotuma. Everything we needed, we shipped. So we didn't rely on picking up any materials in Fiji. We just weren't comfortable with that. In the end, we ended up with about $3,600 in extra baggage fees. In contrast with some of the other DXpeditions that have faced the same challenge, that's not too bad. We got hit with $3,400 in value-added tax, which is kind of a expense you have to pay. And so that was what it was. We had 2 local stations, K3s with KPA 500s. We had 3 ribs. 2 were K3 based, and 1 was based on L-Craft K4. For 11680, we had an inverted L. We were told that we could get a local young man to climb up a tree and string the antenna. Well, we couldn't find anybody on the island that would or could go up the tree. So we ended up casting a rock and getting it up high enough to work somewhat. On 10 through 20, we had vertical dipoles on the water, and they worked fairly well. And then on 30 and 40, we had quarter wave verticals. The ribs being operated 100% remote. We use the same antenna configuration that's been used by A7JV on his trips. And that was a V8 antenna, which is a design from N6BT with a local tuner, a remote tuner at the antenna that worked in concert with the tuners in the ribs. And then on 6 meters, we had a 5-element Yagi. Unfortunately, we just had 1 small opening to VK, and for the rest of the trip, we didn't have any success on 6 meters. Okay.
So as you guys can see here, this is kind of he kind of mentioned our station that was basically right on the beach. And as you can see in the top right, that was our like pre-set up station we had some basic tables and stuff that was getting configured. But overall, everything was set up, we had basically an empty station, or empty shack ready to go for the station. You can see that you can see the tin on the side and the roof there. We ended up putting tarps on the side of it so that for all the weather concerns that you do get in the middle of the rainy season there in Rotuma. You can see we were basically on the beach, and then the top right is the 3 ribs on the back table, the 2 K3s and then the K4 rib, as well with the KPA 500 and the 500 watt tuner there. So we had 1 table that was mostly focused to the remote operators and the ribs, and then you had 2 other tables that were set up for the local operations, which you can see in the bottom left-hand corner. As you can see, you see Lucas, LY7J in the foreground, and then you see Dean in the background there. And that's where the 2 local stations were, and they each had, as Greg mentioned, KPA 500s and K3s. And so you can kind of see there Lucas setting up one of the V8s there, and I'll let Nathan allude to a little bit more on how that went. And as you can see here, this is kind of just a wide variety of locations of all the antennas we used. We used as Greg mentioned, the top left has the long wire, and the top right, or the 2 on the right-hand side are the rib V8s that we ended up using. We had a bunch of vertical dipoles, as you can see in the middle there, and quarter wave verticals in the bottom left-hand corner for 30 and 40. And then just all the vertical dipoles were basically right on the beach as much as we could due to tide situations. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Nathan here. He'll talk a little bit more about some of the challenges and things we overcame.
Challenges is an absolute understatement. These guys actually overcame quite a bit. Starting back at the top, the weather and stuff. We were obviously trying to prepare for I guess dehydration and just some of these I guess natural occurring environmental issues. Did not expect it to be as hot as it was, and it wasn't necessarily the temperature. It was the humidity. If you're from the south, you understand that. The lightning and the wind. I mean, it rained about once, maybe twice a day, but like I said, just the humidity was just absolutely relentless. And I mean, there's no break. There was no like air conditioning inside the houses. There was no place to necessarily escape to. So that was a little bit of a challenge. The insects, we were like right on the beach. So you had a lot of like the sand fleas, and there was mosquitoes and other things I don't even know that biologists know what they are, but they would crawl on anything. If you had an open wound, there were 5 layers. And like I said, I wanted to say the details on that, but it was very challenging to, keep the amount of, I guess, cleanliness and, I guess whatever that we actually keep in, first world countries. But those were some challenges that we obviously had to overcome. So a lot of it was trying to prevent and then obviously correct the infections, to do a lot of the soft tissue injury treatments. I was brought on board. I've been a paramedic for 24 years, so that's what got me onto the team because it's definitely not my CW skills. And even though we were in like the saltwater environment, the soft tissue injuries didn't heal like I was expecting them to be. So like I said, we kind of had to pick up just kind of where we were left off. Antennas, like I said, we picked a really good time. We got there at low tide. We saw a perfect spot. We put the antenna. 2 hours later, the antenna was about 2 feet underwater. So you'll see more pictures about that later. Cool story. On the island, the power was something that we didn't. We expected 220. We were told 220, 240. We measured it. On a good day, it was 170. On a usual day, it was about 140 with no ground wire. So it's like, yeah, why don't you touch this metal part of the radio while we're transmitting, please? There is commercial power. It was from cat generators, which, like I said, it was at least okay for the 110 stuff. But we were also without power for certain times during the day, and that was just natural for them. They actually expected it. It was 1 to 2, 5 to 6, and then overnight there was no electricity. I think the weekends were even worse. No electricity on the weekends. You look outside, not that you could tell, but there was no electricity on the weekends. And he's already covered the transporting the gear onto routine with the amount of stuff we had to repack, unpack, and stuff like that. So that was encouraging. So yes, I was actually brought on board. We had to pack an entire pack. I had to make it less than 50 pounds. That's not easy whenever you're carrying 6 liters of fluid with you. And so there was a things. And so we tried to pre-hydrate even before we left. We had Zoom meetings, all that kind of stuff. And I encouraged these people, let's try to at least intake, 3 liters a day about the week leading up to it, to where we're not arriving on the island like behind the curve already. And I think that solved, or that at least prevented a lot of problems from actually getting worse. Electrolytes, huge, because obviously, you can wash yourself out by just drinking water. So using the electrolytes and all that kind of stuff helped. Like I said, just with the insects and all that kind of stuff. With the mosquitoes, obviously our go-to would have been DEET, just because it's very effective toward the mosquitoes. The problem is it's very caustic toward equipment. So whenever I see somebody's thumbprint embedded on my K3, I'm not a happy camper. So and to try to prevent that from happening, we were trying to use some other things. And I mean, granted, it was somewhat effective, but not as good as the DEET. We kind of resorted back to the DEET. We were very careful to keep that off of our hands. Like I said, infections, that was a little bit more of a challenge than I was expecting. We only had one that I guess needed to actually seek intervention. Other than that, no hot water. I mean, did that really necessarily, I guess, come into play with the personal hygiene? Maybe. I don't know. It felt really nice to have cold showers in the middle of the day and 110-degree heat index, so I was okay with that. I didn't mind it. So the challenge was, okay, so I mentioned about the V8 that we actually put in the middle of the water. We came out, I don't think it was being used, and Lucas actually found it literally laying in the surf at high tide. So he goes out there, he retrieves it, and it's got a remote tuner on the bottom of it. Now, luckily, it wasn't powered up, and I think that's the only thing that saved it. So we brought it in. I'm sorry, I didn't do anything. I was sleeping. They brought it in, they washed it out, they dried it out, and then all of a sudden they're putting it back together. And the thing started coming to life. Something was not exactly right about it, but it worked for the most part. So we opened it up, and the pictures that you see here, we're opening things up. We're trying to find out which relay. There's one relay of probably like 20 or 25 that's not working. And so we're going through, and so like Lucas was like, hey, I'm gonna hit this button. You tell me if it clicks. I was like, yeah, it clicks. I go to the next one. Yeah, that one clicks. Well, they all started to feel the same. I don't know if it's just my finger was numb, but they all started to feel the same. So in the middle on the top, I went back up to the homestay, and I grabbed my Littman Cardiology 4 stethoscope. And I turned it on the small bell, and I put it right on there. And it was obvious. That was like the most use I've ever got out of that entire stethoscope in like 20 years. I don't even sure how to use it anywhere else, but it's great for relay comparisons. But so yeah, I mean, that's just what we were doing. To upper right-hand corner, we had a really good supervisor that was watching over our shoulders. He pretty much taught us everything we know. But yeah, that was just a really fun part of the trip. But these guys really did. They overcome so much stuff. I mean, you give this kid, a ball of copper wire and a hammer, they can build a radio with it. Yeah, I mean, everybody had their spot. Everybody had their specialty, and they really functioned. I mean, just sitting back, just watching these guys, it was a well-oiled machine in a very rough place, and they really did a lot of good stuff there. We overcame everything. I think only one piece of equipment went back. What was that, a bandpass filter? Okay. And like I said, I mean, I'm like, you can't let a bandpass filter get you guys down. We can't go home with this, but it was fixed afterwards. The three local, the operators, like I said, it was really fun operating from there. And several, like I said, of the youth ops are going to be going on our next trip coming up in October of this year. And speaking of great photographers, Lucas.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lucas, LY7J. I am full-time photographer in my country, in Lithuania. So something like that, Rotuma Island was something different, something that I never saw before. And it's all because of our weird and amazing hobby. So, by the way, it's my second time in States and first Hamvention, so thank you. Yeah, so talking about island photography, you can see our homestay where we stayed with a picture with the drone on the left side. And on the right side, you can see as Nathan mentioned, we are not very great CW operators. So during CW Worldwide contest, we had some free time. So we ride a bike through the island, and we were invited to the neighborhood party. Yeah, we drink some interesting drinks. Yeah, it was an experience. Yep. I wish I could show you, all the 1,000 pictures, but it's just only a few of them. So, some telecommunication systems in the Rotuma, landline via satellite, and Rotuma Airport, Rotuma Church, one of the churches. They have a lot of churches, and a boat that comes every 2 weeks, I guess, to the island. So it looks way different for me. Yeah, something interesting. That bull, that's a story. So while we were driving on the bike, I think that was one of the pictures on the up in the middle. So while we were taking that picture with the drone, we were concentrated to taking that picture, and we heard something walking behind us. So that was our friend. He was chasing us. We were running around circles around the bike. It is funny now. It was not funny at that moment at all. So, yeah. On the top side right, you can see I think it was Wednesday dinner, bacon, really good one. Then on the down left side, Vama and his farm, and some forest, I guess. Lunch and dinner, not Denny's. Yeah, thank you. What's that? And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
So one of the things that was the most rewarding part of this trip was there was not a single occasion when one of the team members came up to me and said, "Greg, this is broken." There were many occasions when I walked down and they were fixing something, or they said, "Greg, we fixed this and we got to work on it some more later," or "Greg, we fixed this and it's finished." So that was really rewarding for me. Everybody just had a can-do attitude. You know, when you go on any DXpedition, it's planning, 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 because Murphy's along for the ride. I actually had a slide in another presentation that was a group of Rotuma warriors doing a dance, and I titled the slide Murphy and All His Cousins, because they were there. Everything worked well. I do want to share a story that we didn't capture in the presentation. As it was discussed, we operated CQ Worldwide CW, and you guys made notice of our hardened operating shelter. It was designed to survive earthquakes, typhoons, etc. And we had daily storms. And I was up in the house, I was laying in bed, and I heard the wind come up. And I heard the rain come up. And this was not like any wind or rain I'd heard since we got there. So I jumped up, and I was pulling my shoes on, my phone rang. It was Jamie, who was down in the operating shelter on his shift, and he's screaming, "Help, the roof blew off." So the team muster, we ran down there. Lucas and Jamie were holding what was left of the roof on, and as hot as it was on Rotuma, this storm was cold. They were shivering. It was intense. It was a pretty significant event. We covered the equipment with tarps. After the rain passed, we packed everything up and we put the station back on in the air in the morning. So that was one of the memories, and it'll stick with me for the rest of my life. A little bit about the power. The power fluctuated a lot, but the neutral was never anywhere near ground potential. It was always 60, 70, 80 volts. So as alluded to by Nathan, every time you touch something, you got a shock. And Lucas grabbed some copper wire, threw it in the surf, problem solved. So we couldn't have done this without our sponsors. Oh, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Go for it.
So as you know, in any DXpedition, there's a lot that goes into it. I know we're getting close on time, but I want to recognize Indexa, CDXC, Youth on the Air, I'm having a hard time seeing it, German DX Foundation, a lot of support from a European standpoint and domestic standpoint that helped us do what we needed to do. And I'd be remiss in not recognizing DX Engineering and also Elecraft, because we were using all Elecraft gear while we were on the island. As Greg mentioned, it was a very, very challenging DXpedition. We all had to pull together, and we sort of became known as the naked ham radio operators because it was so hot. The night that roof blew off, we were all in different states of dress when we're running down there to grab the roof so that the radios don't get wrecked. So it spread across the island, a small island, and before you know it, that's what we became known as. And it was pretty, like I've been mentioned, it's been pretty warm. So we're going to take a few questions if we have time, but I'm going to let Greg wrap up with our future plans. Okay.
So as we've announced earlier this year, we have an upcoming trip to Saba, and this is a continuation of this project that is a partnership with Youth on the Air, and it's really getting a lot of momentum. I couldn't be happier. What comes with momentum is a lot of work, but I'm really passionate about this, so it's a labor of love. On Saba, we'll have 3 stations. Our operating location is going to be at the home of Jeff NM1Y. We've operated there for many times before. We've won contests, we've set records, but there's no infrastructure there now. So it'll be like building a DXpedition from the ground up. There's a little bit of material, but not a lot. So the kids that are going on this trip are going to have the experience of building stations from the ground up, just as they would on a DXpedition. Saba is not rare by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not where we're going. It's about what we're doing. And why Saba? It's safe. We can take a large team there, and it's affordable. And so that works out real well. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Saba at the opening of the afternoon session tomorrow. We're in the process of raising funds. Things are going fairly well. And if you can find it in your heart to help us, you can go to our website or go to donate pj6y@2025@gmail.com. We'd be remiss if we didn't thank the Northern California DX Foundation. They've been very generous and very supportive in these efforts, and we couldn't do it without them. So again, thank you to the folks at NorCal.
We could take a couple of questions before we pass it on, if there's any in the audience.
Did you leave anything behind? Did you have anything that you did not ship back to the state?
We did, as Greg had mentioned, we spent a lot of time logistically, and it's a long story, but for the most part, we wound up leaving anything of heavy weight, like the coax was left. We had tables, those were left. Some things got wrecked in the storm, but we cross-packed to get on the island, and we pulled some strings because what was initially said we could pack in personal luggage actually was a lot heavier than the intel we received, and we got back all of our critical gear amongst the team itself, and that was very, very important. I hope that answers your question.